Good evening, everyone. Today we have the second lecture series on research methodology. The inaugural address was given by Professor M.K. Sukumaran Nair 2 weeks back. Today we have Professor K.S. Hari from Gokhale Institute, who needs no introduction at all. However, as a matter of procedure, I welcome Prasad, Associate Professor, Sri Shankara College, to give the welcome address.
Thank you, Harikumar sir. Good evening all. Respected Chair, Professor Harikumar, former Dean of Social Sciences, QSAT, most distinguished guest of honor, Professor K.J. Joseph, Director, Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation, the former President, KEA, the key speaker of the day, Professor K.S. Hari, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, Pune. The discussant of the session, Emmanuel Thomas, Head of the Department of Economics, St. Thomas College, Thrissur, Dr. M.P. Philip, Coordinator, KEA Ernakulam Chapter, Dr. Shaila Hamid, Joint Coordinator, KEA Ernakulam Chapter, colleagues, and my dear students. Today, in this fine evening, we have gathered online in this online platform to attend the second session of the webinar series on research methodology organized by the Ernakulam chapter of KEA, Kerala Economic Association, in association with Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation, Thiruvananthapuram. The first of this webinar series was on 8th November 2023. The theme of the inaugural webinar was the craft of empirical research method. The session, handled by the most reputed Professor M.K. Sukumaran, was well received by academic fraternity of about 200 scholars from across the country. Today, we are fortunate enough to have my own friend, Dr. K.S. Hari. In fact, he is a friend of many in this gathering and a student of Professor K.J. Joseph and Professor Harilal. He will be discussing about various databases on Indian economy and how to analyze those data to draw inferences based on research questions. I know the time allotted to him is very limited, but he is capable enough to do justice to this important task. The assigned duty to me in this session is to welcome the dignitaries and all the participants of this webinar. First of all, let me welcome the chairman of the session, Professor Harikumar, former Dean of Social Sciences, Cochin University of Science and Technology. He is in fact the center pillar of KEA Ernakulam chapter and a constant support to all its activities. Sir, on behalf of all the participants and on my own behalf, I humbly welcome you to chair this session. Next, I proudly welcome Professor K.J. Joseph, my own teacher. We are really fortunate to have him here as the guest of honor. He is the former president of KEA and present director of GIFT, Gulati Institute of Finance and Taxation, a center of excellence specializing in research, training, and consultancy to provide fiscal and social policy inputs to the state government. Sir, we are really honored to have you here and welcome you to this webinar for your words of wisdom. And it's my privilege to welcome my friend, Dr. K.S. Hari, Professor, Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, as the key speaker of today's webinar. Before welcoming him, let me introduce him first. Professor Hari did Masters in Development Economics from the University of Calicut at Dr. John Mathai Center, Thrissur, and MPhil and PhD from JNU New Delhi at Center for Development Studies, Thiruvananthapuram. He was the recipient of a postdoctoral fellowship from London School of Economics and Political Science. Hari is having almost 2 decades of teaching experience at the postgraduate level. Currently, he teaches the core courses on public economics, development economics, and elective courses on political economy of India's development at Gokhale Institute. His areas of research interest are in development economics and specifically in labor and employment in India, skilling, human development, and economic growth. He works on several funded research projects at the Institute. One is in collaboration with the London School of Economics and IIT Kanpur on the futuristic ecosystem for digital entrepreneurship, working in the area of the knowledge economy. The other is funded by the Department of Economics and Statistics, Government of Maharashtra, and is exploring ways to update the methodology for estimation of district domestic product in Maharashtra. He has a fairly good contribution to academic literature via publications in journals of national and international reputation. I proudly welcome Professor K.S. Hari as the key speaker of today's webinar on the topic, how to do master's dissertation using secondary data. Welcome, Hari, to this webinar. The discussant of today's session is Emmanuel Thomas, who is the KEA Executive Committee member in charge of KEA Ernakulam chapter. He is the head of the Department of Economics, St. Thomas College, Thrissur. I welcome my friend Emmanuel Thomas as discussant of this session. The KEA General Secretary, Santosh Varghese, is our all-time dynamic representative of KEA Ernakulam chapter in the Kerala Economic Association. It is his enthusiasm and spirit which definitely helped KEA to conduct several such academic endeavors across Kerala under the banner Kerala Economic Association. For me, he is like an elder brother and a friend. I sincerely welcome Santosh Varghese to this important academic event. I also welcome Dr. MP Philip, coordinator of KEA Ernakulam chapter, Dr. Neetu and Dr. Shaila, the joint coordinators of Ernakulam chapter, and all other KEA members. Finally, yet importantly, I welcome all the participants, including teachers, students, and all other well-wishers to this important webinar on research methodology at the initiative of our chapter on the theme, the use of secondary data research. Thank you all. Over to you, Harikumar sir.
So may I take the liberty to invite Professor K.J. Joseph to say a few words or to initiate this lecture.
Good evening to all of you. Professor Harikumar, the speaker of the day, Professor Hari, Dr. Prasad, who gave a wonderful welcome address, the most dynamic office bearers of Kerala Economic Association, Santosh, Godwin, of course, that include many others, and the chair of the session, and Professor Philip, Dr. Neetu, Dr. Shaila, and all the participants of this session. I must say that I feel extremely happy because this is actually a gathering of wonderful friends. And in fact, the chair of the session was very careful in telling that he's inviting me to say a few words because you know that the particular session that Professor Hari is going to handle is an important issue on which at least 45 sessions are needed, and he has got only 45 minutes maximum, maybe 50 minutes. So instead of 45 sessions, he has got only 45 minutes, and every second I take will be adding to your marginal disutility. So I'm not inclined to venture too much. And also, I take a lot of wait for that few words because I am actually, there's an unexpected family gathering. I just came up, and but I will be definitely seeing the recording. And in fact, I was traveling when our beloved case Kumar, Professor. But I just wanted to say, I don't know where I'm trying to prevent all my to say. To begin, 4 different chapters are functioning. Now Professor Philip and his team, the Ernakulam chapter, and Harikurup, the Calicut chapter here in South. Now, I'm very happy that the different chapters are doing a remarkable job in sync with the excellent leadership, coordination, and anchoring done by our dear Harilal, Professor Harilal, and Secretary Santosh and Godwin. And I first of all, I cannot liberally. In fact, I must say that I propose that they took it forward so earnestly, and the outcome which I see is beyond my expectation. Second thing is, today Dr. K.S. Hari is talking about the PG dissertation, and it is now, that we are having there is an orientation to a project report, and that's, I would say that in fact, the credit for that, if I understand correctly, goes to none other than our esteemed patron of KEA, Professor M.A. Uman, who initiated it, if I remember correctly, in 1978, the first batch. I was the 5th batch, in Dr. John Matthijs and in Trichu. And the manner in which he did was in a remarkable way. The idea was actually, I think at that time they had about a particular village. All the students will go collect the data, and each student will be collecting data on all aspects, and then they share, if I remember correctly. And I would say that Hari himself is also a product of Dr. John Matthijs Center. And I must also strengthening the PG research and the relevance of secondary data. I think we must also give a great tribute to Professor M.A. Uman. I think he is the man behind this whole idea, which in fact, after 1978, I am not very sure whether the quality of that has really gone up to the level to which it should have gone, because I'm saying it because the younger generation, the students, in fact, I know that my students are much, much smarter than I am. Question is, are we really enabling them to take the best out of it? And in this direction, the initiative, the last lecture and these 2 lectures, and I know, I'm sure you will be taking this agenda forward, particularly the secondary data exposure and the tools and methodology of making sense out of secondary data. It's an incredible, it's actually a very important area, because very often you may not be able to do all the research through secondary data, but all may not be able to do with primary data. But my choices actually would be more for primary data, because which for the reasons which I believe, which I don't think that everybody needs to share with that. But at the same time, a judicious mix of both primary and secondary data actually makes the best research. So in this context, I think I know Professor Hari's work, and he is most to take to set the ball rolling on this important question. Doctor, I think I have, first of all, I must conclude my words by with wholehearted appreciation for Dr. Philip and the joint coordinators and all those who have worked behind for doing this. And I would like to see that this is taken forward in an effective manner, makes very useful change in the manner in which we do teaching and research in our colleges and universities. Thank you very much for asking me to be with you. And Professor Harikumar, thank you very much. In the recording later, and please permit. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, okay. Okay.
Okay. Are you able to, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor K.J. Joseph. Now, I invite Professor K.S. Hari to present the paper or how to do master's dissertation using the secondary data. Welcome to Professor Hari.
Yeah, thank you, Professor K.J. Joseph, Professor Harikumar, Dr. Prasad, Dr. Emmanuel, Dr. Santosh, and all other participants of this workshop. And at the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity for presenting this thing, because Professor Harikumar sir has called me once in a fine evening asking me that next couple of weeks ahead, you have to give a presentation. So he has suggested me the topic also. He told that it needs to be based on something on secondary data, which needs to be used by the students for their master dissertation. And he warned that also that there is a lot of difficulties in doing primary survey by the students. So we have to motivate them in such a way that they can do great many works with the secondary data itself. So rightly pointed out by Joseph sir, we also have experimented with the primary data, and luckily we have, today I am very fortunate that two of my seniors, Dr. Prasad and Dr. Emmanuel, we all recollect the experience we had in the Prasad Nagar Housing Society, where frequently every year students used to do field survey as part of the CDS coursework. I recollect that, and I do really feel that when you talk about the master dissertation and training the students for the master dissertation, we have to upgrade up to the needs of the situation or the time also. Because now in the current context, we are talking about the implementation of new education policy, where the master program itself is sometimes going to be a one-year program, where the more emphasis is coming on the undergraduate program. So in that context, again, the time constraint is going to be one major constraining factor for the students on doing a serious primary survey. So that is one constraint which is going to be there. And another thing is that when you talk about the primary survey, one has to be very aware that there are some primary survey data available at the secondary level itself, which students can very well make use of such surveys, with details I will spare in the meantime. Because I'm encouraging students, because we are living in a society where the job market is so tough that to compete the Kerala students or the students who are studying in the colleges in Kerala to be in the labor market, because we need to have a more skilled manpower, because this is the stage at which institutions like say Gokhale or IGIDR or other institutes are moving in the direction of big data analytics. So that is something which is catching up in the corporate sector also. There is a huge demand for the data analysts or the data experts who can handle big data sets. So in that context, if you are limiting yourself to a small, I'm not against any kind of, don't take that exclusive stand that I am against the primary data collection. That of course needs to be trained in the way we have been trained in CDS, or what Professor Joseph was just mentioning about the survey. In their days, we were used to collectively do a survey, which will help us to understand the nuances of preparing a questionnaire, doing a field survey, selecting the sample, how to select the sample, and how to go to the field and collect the information. So all these needs to be trained to the students. I'm not undermining the importance of that. But when it comes to the individual projects, I always feel that there is always a scope for using macro level data. And when you talk about database also, as we know, there are two. Basically, we have primary data sources and secondary data sources. And the third category is, of course, in the Indian context, we have the availability of many cross-sectional databases, like that databases collected, say, for example, by the National Sample Survey Organization, which was earlier not available. In our study days, we were not having the access to the unit level data. That was very limited, but now it is easily available, and National Family Health Survey is available. And there are a number of other databases which I'm going to discuss, where the unit level information is available to the students. So if they can use the appropriate tech tools and techniques to analyze them, and this, of course, this is even the PhD we consider as a passport for research only. So in that context, if we see master thesis is just the beginning of a serious analysis of the data. So in that context, if we see, this will be more than sufficient to have a detailed understanding of the tools and techniques of the research, which will be, I'm sure the last lecture I had heard carefully, where he has been, Professor Sukumaran Nair was explaining about the steps that are involved in the research, problem identification, and how to do literature review, how to identify the research problem. I'm not going into the details of that. But when you talk about the secondary data sources, if you permit, I will share my screen. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we talk about the data on research, I have briefly talked about the primary, which is being collected by the researcher himself or herself with a systematic questionnaire. Secondary data sources, when you talk about the secondary data sources also, they are being also compiled from various other primary sources. When you talk about the national income of this country, don't think that it is just purely a number which is estimated secondary based on secondary data. It has been estimated using n number of them, almost 3,000 plus data sets are used for estimation of a single digit called the GDP of this nation. So that much background data is used for estimation of this particular data. So in this context, I feel that we have to seriously think about using some of these databases for serious research, which will, because even in many research institute, if you take out of the 10 or the 100 PhDs are produced, maybe hardly 10% are based on primary surveys. Rest of the thesis or even the articles that comes in the leading journals also, majority of them are based on secondary data. So that itself shows the relevance of the secondary data. So when it comes to the Indian context, regarding the secondary data, we have basically few sources. Most of these sources are, except these private sources, all the public sources are publicly freely available. The only criteria on some websites may be you have to register as a user there. Otherwise, you have the access to completely free access to these databases. Once you go to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India, you have all the details of the national income, the gross domestic savings, capital formation, all these details are available to you in the Central Statistical Organization. And of late, NSSO is also producing all the unit level data freely available to the researchers. And then, of course, the wealth of information is there in the Reserve Bank of India database, and is one of the best database available in India in terms of the accessibility as well as user friendliness. We have the Reserve Bank of India database, And then various ministries and departmental databases are there. When it comes to private sources, of course, you have CMI is there, which is one of the established source. Then you have IndiaStat, Thomson Reuters, Bloomberg, and of course, EPW Research Foundation is also there in that list of databases. And we have some international data sources also. So I would like to go one by one in terms of these databases and how best we can make use of them into our research agenda. Because when you talk about the national income database, this is compiled by or computed by the Central Statistical Organization at the national level. And state level also, we have the Bureau of Economics and Statistics compiling the state GSDP numbers and NSDP numbers, of course. And we have other like savings, capital formation, both in current and constant prices. And data is available at the aggregate and even the disaggregated level also data is available to you. So that databases are easily accessible to you. So only constraining factor is that you have to be very careful about the methodology in which they are estimated. So that is something which students, because in our student days, especially in CDS, we used to have a course on national income estimation also, where we used to have detailed methodological discussion on how the GDP of the nation is estimated. So then whenever there is a price revision that happens, that is something which students has to be very careful about, because the latest revision was in 2011-12. So that revision had created a lot of debate or controversies with regard to the estimation of methodology, because that has been a very serious methodological change that has happened in the way national income is being estimated when we switched the series from, say, 2004-5 to 2011-12, because we choose the series based upon the availability of National Sample Survey Organization database on employment and unemployment. That is where I am telling that most of these databases are interconnected. So when you talk about the national income, a major data set that is used for estimation of national income is the workforce data, which is going to be coming from the National Sample Survey Organization. So they also do a primary survey for estimation of the number of workers and other, which sector they are working and all these parameters, as well as they collect the information on wages, because most of the service sector estimation, it is based on the number of workers and their say wages, means it is just a multiplication of the product of the number of workers and wages will give you the value added from that particular sector. Apart from some productive sectors, say like agriculture and manufacturing, other sectors we don't estimate it directly, but we use the imputed methods, value addition, imputed methods for estimation of national income. So this has almost, say, 3,000 data sources if you talk about the national income of India, and 300 surveys. So you can imagine the volume of data that is going into the estimation of GDP of our nation. So this database, this change, when you look at the database change, so now we will have two series. One is the 2004-5 series, and another one is the 2011-12 series. So this, how to combine that? That is one important research question which many of the students face when they used to analyze this data. So there is a simple statistical technique available to you in terms of, because I had taken the Kerala's, I hope it is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. I had taken the Kerala's GSDP data with these two series. One is this 2004-5 series and another one is the 11-12 series. So now the question is how to combine these two bases, because as you know, there are two changes whenever there is a base year changes. Basically two changes happens. One is the basket itself changes. Basket of the commodities that are being measured as GDP is changing. And another one is that we are measuring it in terms of the new price. That is the 2011 base year price is getting changed. So now our question is how to compile it, because we need to do some long-term time series analysis using this data. So we can splice the series in both ways. If you want to, normally we splice it into the latest series. So for that, what we do is that you simply find a common year, because normally there will be a earlier series in the up to the 90s, what CSO used to produce a linking factor. Whenever they revise the GDP series, they used to provide the linking factor and they only used to update it. But these days, because of some controversy that happened in the series, and they have tried to revise it, but they didn't succeed in that. So only option available with us now with regard to the long-term time series data is to splice it and use. So splicing is simple, is a very simple technique where you have to find the ratio of that common year, whichever is going to be that is going to be 2011-12. You find the ratio of that. This 11-12 new price upon the old price. So you will get a ratio. Then you have to multiply all this data, old data, with that linking factor. This is going to be that splicing factor. Then you multiply this factor with all the old data series. Then you will be getting a new series where you can easily find that this series is completely into the 2011-12 series. It's just a 2 minutes job through which you can easily convert the database into both ways. If you want to fix it into the 2004-5 series also is possible, because sometimes researchers on Kerala economy especially, sometimes my professor K.P. Kannan used to ask me to splice the series. So then sometimes we used to reverse splice also into the 2009-10 series also. Sometimes we used to continuity, for continuity purpose. So any series you can, is just a simple statistical techniques through which you can calculate this spliced data. So then the next step is simple. I am talking basically about some simple techniques, so which some of you might find it very simple, but it is very powerful tools. Second one is how to find the growth rates, because many a times what happens is that students fumble when it comes to the estimation of the growth rate. So it's also again very simple. You have to convert this data into log values. You just type ln here, convert this into that, and you use time as a variable, because you have to regress it upon time. Then that beta coefficient, whichever is going to be there, that will give you that period's growth rate. So then the next difficulty which students are going to face is with regard to periodization. How to periodize the data. If you have, say, GDP data from 1950 onwards till, say, last 75 years data you are having. So then there are two approaches here. One is either you can fix it endogenously, or you can fix it exogenously. Sometimes we may be forced to fix it exogenously, in the sense that there is a policy shift that is going to happen in the economy. You are going to evaluate the impact of that policy upon a particular sector. In that context, you can periodize. You have to justify that periodization, basically exogenously, why you are using for that method. So if you are going to decide the series itself, where is going to be the break, in that context, you have some of the latest methods, because there is a paper by Pulapre Balakrishnan and Parameshwaran, which came in the EPW in 2010, how to estimate the growth rate of India's, how to understanding the growth rate of India. So that paper, they have explained that Bai and Paron method, which is now, I think, very common in understanding the periodization or finding the break from the series itself. It's a simple technique, which is a time series technique. I'm not going into the details, otherwise we will end up in a 2-hour lecture. I'm not going to that. So that is one possible technique that is available for the students to use. So you are the best judge of how to periodize the data. Either policy-wise you can do it, or let us ask the series itself to decide. Within the series itself, you will find the break here, and then you can estimate the growth rate. If you are policy-wise, then you have to go for some statistical test, like standard test like Chow test and all we use for estimating whether there is a statistically significant difference in 2 periods in terms of whatever growth you are going to estimate. So these are some of the background information which used to be there in terms of estimate, means using this GDP, or GDP means maybe state GSDP also, or any unit which you are going to use. Another difficulty many a time students face is to find out the GDP deflator. Sometimes it may be, because the best source to search out for is the National Account Statistics. It's a publication by the CSO. Sometimes on the end of the report, they publish that also, this GDP deflator. In case you are not finding it, there is a simple technique. It is again the ratio of the current and constant prices. That deflator is simply a ratio of the current and constant prices. If you take, that will give you the deflator with that particular base year. So if you want to interlink with the different base years, again you have to go in for that splicing techniques to have that effect upon the price change on the base year change. So these are some of the minute things, but maybe of use to the students when they use this database for the further analysis. So these other methodological changes, I'm not going into the detail. In case if there is any query at the end of the lecture, I will be happy to explain what all changes methodologically has happened and where we added more value, or where the controversy has really been, what was the fundamental reasons for that. So now coming to the productive sectors, if somebody wants to do, say, something on agricultural sector, something on area production productivity, or whether Kerala is producing more horticultural products. Suppose somebody want to explore that kind of a exploratory study. So in that case also, you don't need to immediately jump into the primary surveys of the farmers, try to find out that. There are sources available to you, easy sources, easy databases are available to you. So I will share this PPT with the organizers, so that, because I'm just connecting with some of the websites, Directorate of Economics and Statistics, Department of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Government of India. So this, if you go here, immediately district-wise area production and yield data is immediately available. Then you have agricultural wages available here. Then you have cost of cultivation available here. Then other, if you go to prices, you can see that even the minimum MSP, that is the minimum support price, that is also available in this website. Even the district-wise details are available. So that is, the district is becoming more of a focus these days in terms of research. So this district-wise details of this information is available for the researchers for use. So please make use of these databases when somebody is using for agriculture or horticulture. These two databases are easy sources for the secondary sources of information. But remember that most of these data will be on the current prices. So if you are doing a time series analysis, you have to deflate with the corresponding deflator. That is a fundamental requirement. If you are going to use any kind of a long-term analysis, one has to make it into a common current constant prices. So I will go into that details also later. So coming to the second sector, that is the industrial sector. Industrial sector, we have basically two database. One is the organized sector, another is the unorganized sector. Organized also, we have a private corporate sector separately on which databases are available. But on the public domain, you have the one of the basic data source is going to be the annual survey of industries, which also up to the unit level, 2 and 3 digit, even up to the unit level data, you can easily access from that of the MOSPI website. Only limitation is that some of them are not available on the Excel format. So maybe available on the PDF format. So some of the old years you may have to convert into the these things. And index of industrial production is also available. So these are some of the basic database with regard to the industrial sector, annual survey of industries, which will give a detailed explanation of the factories covered under the Factories Act, and those who are having, basically they follow the NIC classification of industries. 2-digit, 3-digit and 4-digit levels are available. So anybody who is, because these days I don't find many studies that has used this annual survey of industries. I recollect the experience of working in some things with Professor K.K. Subramaniam, who used to be a master of this analyzing the annual survey of industries and other industry related databases. So these are some of the variables available with those databases. So one can easily think of writing a MA dissertation just by using a few last 10 years Kerala's industrial performance. I have not found any study on that post 2005. So except an article which Suresh Babu has written in Hindu newspaper, I have never come across any serious study on Kerala's industrial performance, because there are some indications that of late Kerala is picking up in terms of industrialization, but that has not been corroborated with serious academic research from any of us. So I will leave to the students to explore that. And that gives another advantage is that again, you have 2-digit, 3-digit and 4-digit, means you can go up to the micro details of that. But only thing, again, I will caution you that this is a current year data, current year price data, where you have to deflate it, because there was a huge debate in the 1980s, 90s basically, between Kulapure Balakrishnan and Goldar with regard to double deflation and single deflation. So students should read such literature and be aware about the methods that can be used for, because price indices are available from Ministry of Labor, Labor Bureau, their website if you go. These industrial workers, agricultural workers and rural labor, these are the three categories for different sectors, different categories of industries. The data is available for price indices, means consumer price indices. So one has to make use of that to deflate this series so that you can intertemporally compare. So the basic idea is that whenever you make a comparison intertemporally, you have to make it into a common series. So which deflator to use? Inputs used to be deflated with input price, and output needs to be deflated with the output price, so that there won't be any methodological mistake in terms of estimation of this thing. So when it comes to the other sector, because we know that India is having a huge presence of the unorganized sector activities. So here again, the advantage is from that of the National Sample Survey Organization. They had done various surveys. Of late, these survey results are also unit level data is available for research for the students. Economic census is there from CSO. Latest results are yet to come. They have completed the survey. Otherwise, unorganized sector surveys by the NSSO. So that will be a major data source which is going to be available for the students. And another private source which is being, I'm sure that at least students can access some of the libraries of CDS or Gulati Institute or any other. And you are all welcome to Gokhale Institute at least, if possible. You can visit here. I will make available this database for you freely. This Prof database can be used by the students to understand the firm level performance of the economy. I mean, industries, various parameters or the variables are available. The advantage is that you can use some of the techniques of panel data also. Using this Prof data, one basic biggest advantage is that you can make use of some of the techniques you learn in the panel data techniques you can use of. And another database which I failed to miss to list here, but which is a freely available database because one of our friend only is behind that database also. There is a database by Reserve Bank of India, what they call it as the CLEMS database, KLEMS. Dr. Abdul Aziz is behind that database, which talks about the compiled data on to, if somebody is interested in estimation of productivity related issues in Indian manufacturing, that is one of the best database available in the sense that because the advantage is that normally human capital component is missing in most of the productivity estimation. So this CLEMS database, which I found one interesting is that this human capital component they have estimated. So that is available to the students. So they can make use of that CLEMS database, KLEMS database, which is again available on the RBI website. So please make use of that database. So these are some of the indices I told in terms of this deflating that series. You have consumer price index for industrial workers. Some of them are old base years, so don't worry about that. You can mention in the note itself so that you can make use of that. The only thing is that you have to make into a common series for comparison. So coming to the, moving from that of the productive sectors to the financial sector of the economy, the Reserve Bank of India is going to be, because financial sector is some area which from a placement point of view, I'm talking about from a placement point of view, this analysis of the financial sector data is something which is going to be of interest for the placement companies which are seriously involved in the placement in institutes like us who would like to expand to other regions also. So this one of the basic database on the financial sector is that of the National Stock Exchange of India. So these, I'm not going into the details. Anybody, students can go into the details of the kind of database. There, minute by minute data is available. That is compiled into daily, then weekly, then quarterly, or means fortnightly, then quarterly, then annually. So all these data are available now, because earlier I remember people collecting in the library, but now the advantage is that if you go to the NSE website, these are easily available to the students for a click, on a click of mouse, they can download this data. So that much advantage is there with regard to these databases also. So this is the NSE website. You can easily access this data. And another important source, of course, is the Reserve Bank of India, which is, as I told, is a wealth of information is available in the RBI website. And here you go to the statistics, then you can see that database on Indian economy. just 2 minutes, I will just explain this. These, if you go to this window itself, you can see what all data is available in RBI. Corporate sector, what all data is available. Then external sector, financial market, equity, corporate debt market, forex market, government securities market, money market. Then public finance, financial sector, again, banking related. If any student is doing any analysis with regard to the banking related information, you can immediately go to the RBI website. Real sector also, limited data is available on this database on Indian economy. But of course, these other two databases are going to really help the students when they analyze, because I encourage students to do more analysis on this thing, because this helps them to use their techniques in time series as well as panel data. In the sense that some of these things you can collect, even the district level credit data is available, district level deposit data is available. That too, in terms of ownership, whether it is public sector bank, private sector bank, foreign banks, so such classification is available. So this is disaggregated to the maximum possible extent they have disaggregated. So this gives an advantage that you can combine the features of cross-section as well as time series and make a panel of it and make use of that. So that is the biggest advantage of some of the financial databases available in India, is that they have this opportunity of making them into the panel data framework. That is true even for the public finance data also. If you talk about, say, for example, if we are going to analyze the social sector expenditure and its impact on the human development of the outcome. So in that context, you have a 28 stage data available. For, say, 1970s onwards, you have this indicator available. Then you have to find out the outcome indicators in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of overall development. So then you can easily corroborate that in terms of your research outcome. So that this makes it very easily access to these databases. And another is with regard to the external sector. I'm not sure Joseph sir is still there, but external sector databases are expanding and it has become even more easily accessible also, available and accessible also. So these are some of the international databases, because they are also compiled from the different countries' balance of payment only. They never produce any database, they compile from the RBI provided information only on these databases. So UN commodity trade, UN trade is easily accessible. Only thing is that you have to register there. Most of these databases, only requirement is that you have to register that this thing, and you have HS based and standard international trade classifications are easily available, and it is very easy to use also. Immediately you can make use of such databases. You don't need to verify it again. And another is this World Integrated Trade Solution, WITS database, which has compiled all this UN Comtrade, UN WTO data. All this you can access at a single point by clicking on the witsworldbank.org. You can immediately have an access on merchandise trade. But not only that, so the advantage of this database is that not only they give the data, but trade related policy informations are also available. If there is going to be any non-tariff measures implemented by a particular nation on a particular commodity, so whether that is affecting your trade. So in such kind of a scenario, if you want to study that whether this, say, some trade pact between the countries are affecting the trade of this particular commodity, in such context, you to analyze or to understand what is that exactly that policy, which commodity it has been implemented, which year they have implemented this. So all these base information, you don't need to go into different sources to collect that information. This WITS database, the advantage is that at one point, these data are available to you. Another is this International Trade Center, if anybody interested on this trade databases, and some of the Indian databases are also there. Basically, our Ministry of Commerce also gives India specific data, and some of the advantages that you can get it in rupees as well as in US dollar are available. Country-wise, region-wise access is available for you in terms of this. So these are some of the classic databases available on the secondary sector when it comes to the commodity production. Now, one important area on which one can work on is the, of course, is the unemployment issues. If somebody is interested on analyzing it from a long-term perspective, the immediate database is that of the NSSO. Recently, the last 4 years, we have a high frequency data available from the periodic labor force survey or the PLFS databases also. So these two databases are easily, either you can get it from ICSSR database that also requires a registration. Otherwise, MOSPI website gives easy access to this database at the unit level. I am not going into the details of comparing PLFS, whether they can be compared or not. There is a lot of controversy going on also, whether NSSO data can be compared with that of the PLFS data. Then one major change that happened is with regard to the household, the way they have selected the households. Because in the earlier context, they were selecting the based on the consumption expenditure was one criteria. But in the PLFS, general education level has become a major, means that is the primary identification for the households. So that is one of the major change that has happened in the PLFS. But otherwise, in terms of sample size and coverage and all these things, it can be easily compared with that. And coming to the human development indicators, we have two databases. One is the India Human Development Survey, which is a little bit old, but that recent round is coming. And another interesting database, I'm not sure whether many people are aware about this database, is a global data lab by Radboud University. The interesting thing is that most of the subnational statistics on a temporal, intertemporal, on human development, spatial data, SDG, and other area database, vulnerability, all these databases, surprisingly, intertemporally, they are producing. Some of the research articles are also coming up. So there is no harm in making use of such databases if it helps in your research. So typically I'm just skipping this census because we have not conducted any census in the recent years. Another important database when it comes to the social sector is, of course, the National Family Health Survey. 5 rounds and the 6th round is ongoing. So the 4th and 5th round, the advantage is that district level information is available. I have not found many studies comparing the districts within Kerala, or you can compare districts in Kerala with Tamil Nadu, or any possibilities are there in terms of analyzing, say, regionally also. Within Kerala, we always used to compare, say, Kochi, Travancore with that of the Malabar in terms of attainment of indicators. So then this database have an easy access and availability, and this also unit level data is available. So one need not worry too much about, because unit level indicators are available. So one can easily track it, which district it is. And school education, this is, I'm just skipping this. And this, if anybody is interested, I will go into that. And one important database, I have not come across many studies in Kerala using this database. So that is why I thought I'll flag this database also. That is a longitudinal aging study in India. Because aging is one of the, because we are who is leading in terms of aging in India. Kerala is having almost, say, 20% of its population, because we didn't had a census, but I'm sure almost more than 20% of Kerala population is above 60 plus. So we are aging society. So if suppose somebody want to do any study on this, there of course there are few attempts by Professor Irudayarajan and others to do some primary survey on this aging also. Apart from that, there is a huge database which connects all. The advantage is that this is this methodology which they have used is internationally comparable. So we can compare across 30 nations also in terms of this database. This is a LASI database. So this is also the representative for 30 states. All persons aged above 45 and their spouses are being surveyed. And they are doing a panel sample also. And longitudinal for 25 years, that is what IAPS is promising. So this data is going to be of a larger interest for our students, because this has done in 3 levels. One is the household interview, then community survey, then there is an individual level interview also. So all these variables, if you repeat this sample, I'm sure that we are not going to capture. If as a student, if you are repeating this survey, you will not be able to capture this information, because these are done by the trained professionals. When you talk about these things, these are done by the trained professionals. So these databases needs to be explored more by the students. I'm not going into the details because these are some of the indicators that are available. One goes to the details, you will be surprised to see the kind of variables that are collected by them. But I'm not sure whether we are seriously using this for our research purpose. So my humble submission for the students should be to make use of these larger data sets. The advantage is that you will be familiar with how to handle the larger data set, whether it is cross-section or time series data, or it is a panel data. One will be getting a hands-on training on how to use the larger data set. That is one advantage. Otherwise, your sample size may not be more than 300 or so. So that limits your opportunity to learn more in terms of applying the tools and techniques in your analysis in terms of research. But advantage of using the secondary, this type of database is that you will, these are some of the health situation also is available. Health providers, health service providers, distance, all these information. Another database which I briefly mentioned is India Human Development Survey. So that is something also one has to, because the third survey result is going to come in a month's time. So that will be an important the addition to the database, because one has to remember or recollect that most of these databases are being used by foreign researchers. We don't do much research on these databases. Most of these publications that are coming are from foreign universities. So I think it is the high time that we have to be aware of these databases and make use of these databases for our research purpose. So I hope I have done time management also, because I took almost 45 minutes to 50 minutes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Harry. Now I invite Emmanuel Thomas to discuss the important points.
Thank you, Harikumar sir. Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly audible.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. K.S. Hari, my dear friend. It was an excellent presentation, a comprehensive presentation on the databases on Indian economy. And I don't want to repeat what Professor Hari said in his presentation, that it will be a repetition and waste of time. So I will wind up in just less than 5 minutes. And as he said, he will be circulating the slides of this presentation, and participants will get them so they can go through these slides again. And so there is no point in repeating. And I think it was useful not just for students alone, it was useful for teachers, research scholars, all of us who attended this program. So that way it was a wonderful lecture on database. And the main messages, that is how I will go about it. The important messages are like both primary and secondary data can be used and are useful and are important for doing research, are important for conducting inquiries. But as Professor M.K. Sukumaran Nair sir pointed out in the previous lecture, understanding and exhausting the available secondary data is important while we start our research. And primary collection of primary data, as Professor Hari pointed out, is a very strenuous task. It is following all the methodological intricacies, and it takes a lot of time to conduct a survey and collect reliable data. And the general consensus today among academicians, the teachers in Kerala now, is that it is important for our postgraduate students to learn to acquaint themselves with secondary data and do some analysis, making use of that data for their growth in career prospects, as well as for progression to higher education. So that is one of the important points, messages which is emerging through these lecture series. And Professor Hari has also underlined that point. And as I already told you, students working in different areas, whichever the area they are working, they have got some introduction to the data, available data in that particular area. Say, starting from national income to industry to the agriculture sector, financial sector, social sectors, price data. So, and also finally he spoke of employment, and he mentioned about some of the new data sources also. So once students are, Professor Hari, our students are starting their, or some of them have already started their postgraduate dissertation work. So this is the right time for them to get this kind of a lecture. So now I think the students can look for the available secondary data in their area, wherever the problems that they have identified, and they can start working on it. And the another message I think is to pay attention to the basic techniques, that some of the basic important points, like paying attention to the base year of the data, or splicing techniques, periodization. So these kind of basic ideas are also important while you start dealing with the secondary data. So as pointed out, I think the postgraduate dissertation is intended to give a flavor of research to the postgraduate students. So this is the right way to get that done, introducing the postgraduate students into research, because unless you know about the data, then your understanding of the issue is very partial, or I would say your understanding is, you lack understanding in that particular area. So that way, acquaintance with secondary data is going to be very, very important. So now I think I will stop here. And I feel that it will be more useful if students or other participants can raise some questions, and if Professor Hari can respond, that will be more useful than me repeating what Professor Hari said. Okay, thank you, Professor K.S. Hari. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the paper is open for presentation, is open for discussions. Students, participants can raise questions. Students, you please ask either in English or Malayalam, no problem. He will explain to your queries. When I was just examining the chat box, I saw two questions. One from Anupama Leela George. If she is available, she can raise the question.
Sir, I think you can read it out in her absence.
I saw that it is something related with the Sustainable Development Goals, I think. And there is a template created by the Niti Aayog. If you go to their Niti Aayog website, there is a template which monitor the attainment of Sustainable Development Goals, which I think some of the states are also following that. So I am sure that state level planning board website or the DES, the Department of Economics and Statistics website, will be following that kind of a template, because Maharashtra is having that template. But national level and at least aggregate level, state level, if not at the district level and all, normally states monitor that. At the national and state level, that is the monitoring happens at the national level. That information is available in the Niti Aayog website. You can easily download that data from the Niti Aayog website, and whichever target there is a shortfall, how far there is a shortfall from the attainment target, that is clearly mentioned in the Niti Aayog. And frequently they publish the reports also. This Niti Aayog last year has published a report on the Sustainable Development Goals. So that is there. And this global database, which I have mentioned, they also has that SDG attainment targets for the various nations also. If not India alone, if you want to compare with, that is the UN goal for across the globe. So that targeted achievement for other, if you want to compare with other nations also, it is possible. If you go for that Radboud University database on that SDG, it is also available is there. Yeah, somebody has written the state level template is being prepared. Some work was initially done by Kila, and PIEMD is also involved with the work. I'm sure that state level monitoring is happening. Most of the states do, because we hardly have 6 years left for attaining the target on SDGs. So that framework is there. At least trade in value added is easily available. You have multiple sources for getting the trade data. If you go to the RBI website, handbook, the RBI publishes it directly. You can download easily directly from the RBI website. Otherwise, if you want to compare with other countries, you can go to that WITS, World Bank, that database, where you can make inter-country comparisons, intertemporal comparisons. All these possibilities are there. They give for up to 8 digit of that HS code. So that much disaggregated data on not only in trade in the goods and commodities, but these days trade in services also. So that data is also available. So I'm sure that one can make use of that kind of databases. Only sometimes people, because I would like to acknowledge one Mr. Anil Kumar in CDS library. He was the one major, because more than teachers, we used to rely on Anil Kumar for database. So he is the one who taught us intricacies of all these databases, learning from a librarian basically on various, that is, I used to accumulate from whatever knowledge I gained from Mr. Anil Kumar over a period of time. So he has a, because love for data. So once you love data, then it is easily that is to be easily manageable. So I think if students also generate that interest in seeing databases, whenever there is any methodological discussion also, you go into the crux of that problem. You try to read that. Apart from journalistic debate that happens in the newspaper, I would request students to read beyond that. Most of this will be followed up in EPW or other journals later by, say, eminent economists, so such debates. So students should read that literature, because on this India's GDP only, even that time economic advisor later left that job and he has also written on that. Arvind Subramaniam has written on this GDP data, this methodology. Then Professor R. Nagaraj used to be frequently writing on this methodology of estimation. He was also part of that committee which estimated GDP. So he has also written on that. So this insider's knowledge, I think, is very important. But one pinch of salt, as like Dr. Emmanuel was mentioning, is that one has to understand the methodology of it before jumping into any database. Because these days what happens is that it is all available in Excel. So then students start playing with the data without understanding the intricacy of that data. Many a times you jump into wrong conclusions also sometimes. If you don't know the way in which that database is being generated, unless you know the methodology of that, you may end up in an opposite result also sometimes. So one has to, my simple request will be that one has to read the methodology of that, how that data is getting generated, then use that. Otherwise,
Hari, ഈ മെത്തഡോളജിയുടെ ചാപ്റ്റർ വായിക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും ഒരു പക്ഷേ അവർക്ക് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയൊരു പോയിന്റ് അല്ലേ?
Yes, yes. There is always a literature, means whenever they release the database, they release these sub-documents, sources and methods. When it is national income, they immediately produce a document on sources and methods of estimation of national income. I'm sure you recollect CDS, we read all these things. Even Raj committee report, Chellaya committee report, all these reports on estimation of savings and capital formation. So how that gets estimated, basically how these data are getting generated. If one start reading, I'm sure it is an interesting topic for the students or even for the teachers also, to get familiar with the methodology, how this is done. Then if one keep on adding that interest, then I'm sure that if there is going to be a further revision, then it will be easy for us to understand. So once one follow that, that is where this NSSO, if you have been following NSSO surveys, then it is easy to understand what changes happened in this PLFS when that PLFS was introduced. So then one will be easily understanding what is the difference in these databases in each round. And NFHS also, each round what changes happens. So like that, if one follow at least the particular database on which one is doing research, then also I'm sure that if not all the databases, at least the area in which you are working, one follow the data for a very long period of time, then it will be very easy to play around with the numbers. Because students also needs to be trained, because these days jobs demand that. Because I know, because many of my students get placed in this corporate establishment. So immediately they are given with a big, larger database. This larger database is getting collected indirectly. Whenever you swipe your card in because you know that there are many offers coming to you whenever you purchase something. and they will ask you for so many details. So these details are immediately transferred into whenever you buy something from Flipkart or Amazon, or many of the supermarkets also do that nowadays. They collect a lot of information from you. So that information is getting analyzed in the back office. That is the work which our students are doing now. And in different countries. Here, Indian databases are limited, but they get from the various countries across the globe. So if one has to do such analysis, I'm sure that accessibility and acquaintance with a bigger database will always help them. And basic knowledge of R and Python, these two free softwares, because I'm sure that KEA will take some initiative to have some workshops on for the students to how to use bigger databases, how to analyze. No, I just introduced the database only. One has to go into the details of those databases and try to see how best one can analyze that data, make inferences from that. So I think nowadays the system itself is moving from that of paid software to free softwares. Stata and EViews are not much in demand these days in corporate entities. They are also switching to R and Python and other softwares. So nowadays it's coming in the, surprisingly, things are coming even in the school. Because my son is learning Python, I don't know Python. So he is only in the 9th standard. So that is the intergenerational change that happens. So if that generation comes into this thing, no, so we should not be left behind. Our immediate students should not be left behind. No? So that is something which I think collectively our colleges used to take forward, so that there is more employability. Because I'm more worried about the employability than anything else. Because once one joins for a master program, because research and teaching, of course, because I think Kerala produces maximum net and JRF holders in India in terms of economics. But whether they are translating itself into a job is a question mark. No? So in that context, I think we have to think of some amount of private corporate jobs also for our students. So it is in that context we have to think of, because Kerala government is also thinking in that direction in terms of knowledge economy and all these things. Once we open up the higher education sector for the private sector also, I'm sure that some of us are going to come to Kerala. So there is going to be a lot of competition there. So unless our students are going to be trained, I would wish to see Kerala as a net in-migrant state than out-migrant in terms of students, because we need to get students from outside rather than sending students out of the state. No? So with that, I am sure KEA can take that forward as an initiative to train students how to, this needs to be continuously done. It is not a one-time affair. We have to frequently do this kind of training, so that I'm sure that many are ready to help. It is not that many will be volunteer to help the initiatives also, so that we will have these things to make the students more employable.
Sir, I have a question. May I?
Yeah, please.
Sir, before that, it was a very enriching session. Thank you, sir, for that. So my question is...
Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. I'm Anaida. I'm working as an assistant professor in Mercy College, Palakkad. So, sir, my question is, I'm right now working in the area of labor force participation of mothers of disabled children in Kerala. So, are there any reliable secondary sources with regard to this topic?
Disability, I am not. I will check and let you know. Immediately it is not coming. I will check with database. Lassie, I think they have some information. I have seen people working on Lassie database, whichever I mentioned that towards the end, that database, no? That aging database. Yes, I will check with, I if my memory is correct, there are some information available in that database with regard to this particular kind of question you are asking, with regard to disability.
Okay, sir.
Hello.
Answer, excuse me, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, hello.
Hello. May I ask a question, sir?
Yeah, Jaishankar and Singh. No? Yes.
Yes, yes. Sir, myself, Jaskaran. I'm from Punjab. Sir, first of all, thank you, sir, for this very elaborative lecture. Sir, I am facing a problem in splicing for time series data of production. Sir, my question is, how can I convert NSDP into NSBP when it comes to particular sectors such as like agriculture sector? When we need to supply the old data series into the current series in terms of NSDP into NSBP. Like NSBP data is not available for a particular sector like such as agriculture sector in old data series like in 1993 or 8081. How
NSDP, you're talking about NSDP.
Yes, yes, yes. Like at present, we can find data on NSBP. Like
NSDP, Net State Domestic Product, you are talking.
Yes, 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 yes. Now they are providing NSBP.
Yeah, Net
right
State
now.
Value means
yes,
because
yes,
they have shifted from that of producing GDP to GSV.
Yes, yes.
Gross State Value Added. No, from
yes,
that
yes,
of the earlier they used to produce that of because that was earlier it was on factor cost method. Now we are using that of the market price. That is the basic difference we are having in terms of presentation of data, in terms of this thing. So you want to convert, you take both in market prices.
Okay.
Then you will be able to convert it into a common. If you can email me the data, I can easily guide you.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you.
You can email hari@gip.ac.in. Unless I see the data, it will be difficult for me to comment.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, sir.
Excuse me.
Yes, two are at a time. Ankita
Hello.
and Ajay. Yes. Yes, Mr. Ajay.
Sir, my name is Ajay. I'm a doctor researcher from Bharatiya University. And I have a question regarding whether any database is available for taxation, both direct and indirect, both in national level and international level.
International level database is available. When you go to the IMF database, if you go to their website, World Development Indicators. Have you heard about World Bank data on World Development Indicators? Have you tried that database? They give this, that will be inter-country comparison you are talking about. When it comes to inter-state comparison, when you talk about the within India, there is a database by RBI. RBI handbook of statistics on states are available, and RBI's another database is there on public finance itself. I'll just check it just a minute.
State finances.
State finances, a study of budget.
Okay.
State finances, a study of budget. That only thing is that some old data will be on the PDF format. You may have to convert into Excel. Otherwise, recent data are all available in Excel, downloadable. All the indicators at the state level.
So along with that,
yes.
Okay.
You just go through that database.
Another question is along with that. For example, whether with the consumption of some goods, for example,
you are talking about the consumption. Are you talking about the tax collected or the consumption? Because the consumption, I got your point. You want to see whether consumption is leading to equal improvement in the tax, if I am correct. higher consumption is leading to higher GST. That is the question he is having, I hope. Because in that context, unfortunately, NSSO has not done any research that is ongoing on the consumption expenditure. But if you are rich enough or your university is rich enough, there is another database which is produced by the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy called the Consumer Pyramid Survey. So they are having different waves. I think now it is the 48th waves or something happening. So they have a database from 2014 onwards, which collects the information on the household level consumption expenditure. So there are methodological issues. I do agree because of the way that is collected. That is a weekly only recall period. There are issues with regard to the recall period. But given that constraint, means since there is no other database is available, this is the only database that is available in terms of consumption expenditure in India currently. So this consumer pyramid survey, I think this GIFT will have access, I hope. GIFT might have purchased that database because that is very crucial when you analyze GST revenue, means potential revenue, because normally we relate it with that of the GSDP of the state, but ideally we should relate it with that of the consumption expenditure of the state. So in that context, unless we...
one more last question.
Yeah.
Sir, whether the data is available for the consumption of each goods.
Each goods.
For example,
yes.
chocolates, bread, like that. Each
chocolate,
goods
I'm
available.
not sure, but they are being aggregated at a level, minimal level. Disaggregation is not up to chocolate, cool drinks, that level. I am not sure. But food and non-food, I hope you know that standard classification is there whenever we analyze the consumption expenditure. So that much disaggregation is available.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can I get data from somewhere, like from dropout data from tier 1 colleges?
Tier 1 colleges, no, there is a database, there is an annual survey of higher education institutions, which is done by the, I have added here in the PPT only.
Aisha.
Yeah, Aisha database is there. So that gives enrollment as well as dropout data at the higher education level. So that is the only database. See, I think now the 7th round is going on that.
HISE spelling is HISE, right?
AISHE.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
All India Survey of Higher Education Institutions.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So that database that is compiled by that NUPA, which is basically studies on the education sector of the economy. So they are compiling that database and publishing for the government of India. So that database captures the higher education and school education. There is another database, UDIE. There is something called UDIE, which collects the district level information on all the parameters related with the school education. So that is also online available now. Okay. Gone are the days where you have to look into the libraries for reports and all. Now these things are available online. Only thing one has to, again, I will caution that when you talk about dropout, you have to be careful about what methodology they have used to estimate the dropout. So that enrollment also one has to be very careful reading their definition of enrollment. Wherever you take any data for that matter, first read their methodology, please. Otherwise, you will be in a trouble because you don't go by your own notions. Your own old wisdom, don't go with that. Because a lot of changes are happening in terms of data collection, the way data is defined. So there are intertemporally also a lot of changes are happening. So please spare 2 minutes to read that footnote. So that will help your research a lot, because that is a simple thing, but very powerful tool that one has to read that footnote on data so that we will be very careful about using that database.
Is Ankita there? Ankita was asking about what?
Hi, good evening, sir. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Hi, sir. I'm a research scholar in Punjab. Sir, I have found that this Scandi data journally are doing well with the quantitative data, but their role with the qualitative data is quite limited. So don't you think that Scandi databases should be synthesis of quantitative and qualitative data aspects as well? Because I am working on out migration, student out migration, and I have found very limited data sources on student migration.
Yes, I do agree with that, but one has to be very clear on collecting this qualitative data. If you are attempting for a qualitative data, one has to be very clear on the kind of data which you are going to collect and the way you are going to collect that data and the way you are going to analyze that data also. Because nowadays there are many new techniques that are coming in terms of analyzing. It is not just case studies or focus group discussions like the earlier scenarios. These days we record that conversations or qualitative interviews because we have done a study here in terms of the child preference. Gokhale Institute has done a study on the preference, son preference, because whether the families have a preference. That was done even in Punjab and Tamil Nadu and some other states, where it was basically a qualitative based study, where we have employed some of the latest available techniques to analyze that data. So there is no harm in using that qualitative information, but how to analyze that data, one has to be very careful on that. Otherwise, this becomes very descriptive analysis. So we have to move ahead of that descriptive analysis to produce something very concrete.
Hello, sir. I'm Stalin from St. Paul's College, Kalamashiri. And
yes, tell Stalin.
Yeah, sir, there was a question regarding the availability of data related to the person with a disability.
Yes.
Yeah, right, sir. In 2014 and 15, there was a survey conducted by the Kerala state, and it was headed by the Kerala Social Security Mission.
Okay.
And those report and data are available in the website of Kerala Social Security Mission.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that madam who asked, I think from Palakkad Mercy College, no? Somebody asked that question. I don't know whether she is still there in the line. Otherwise, she can make use of, because I am not much aware about many of the data being collected. I'm sure Kerala government is very proactive, and Department of Economics and Statistics of Kerala is also very productive in terms of collecting information. So I'm sure that many other data like this are also available. And one more database which I failed to, this thing is that of the Panchayati Raj institutions. Ministry of Panchayati Raj, if you go, there is a beautiful database which captures the information at the Panchayat level. So this information, I'm sure that many students can make use of. So Ministry of Panchayati Raj. So their website they are having, I will share that also. When I share the PPTs, I will share that information also. I just missed out of this thing, that there is a beautiful database on which one of my student is doing his PhD also, using that database. So that has information on all the villages in India, surprisingly. Not only in particular state, all villages in India, panchayats in India, you can get information. So on various indicators. So some of the political economy variables which normally being analyzed, we surprised from where these people are getting this data. Means some of the foreign authors who write on India, sometimes I used to surprise where these people are getting this data. But some of them are available within the system. We are not aware about that. Once the article comes only, we will come to know that such information is available. So this is one very interesting database I found. I will share that information where this Panchayat level information is available on various indicators. Because one of our, Mumbai University professor has done an analysis for Maharashtra using that database on mapping different villages and blocks in terms of various indicators. So that map was looking very beautiful. I think that article is very soon coming in EPW. Where maybe that he has written that is accepted. I'm sure it will be coming very soon. One Professor Neeraj Hatekar from Mumbai University, he has done a detailed analysis particularly using this database. So these are some of the information that we are not that familiar, but that may be very highly powerful, productive for this kind of work for the students. No? And of course, we have to go back to what Professor KJ told in the beginning in terms of that village study, because that is also quite important if it can be done combinedly by the students. And there needs to be a frequency at which that needs to be repeated also. Same villages need to be done in every 10 years. So that is how that Barbara Harris White used to survey she travels from UK very frequently and does this survey. That is what this Ramachandran, VK Ramachandran does. And that Madhura Swaminathan also does this type of survey. And one of our students from under Jayan Thomas in IIT, he has also revisited a village which a foreigner has visited 10 years back. So he has he has shared that database from Netherlands, and he has given a fellowship to that student also to travel to Netherlands, so that they have an intertemporal comparison of that particular village over a period of a decade. So one set of data is being collected by a foreigner, and our student has collected it exactly after 10 years, the same village. So whatever changes that happened in that village, so he was also very interested in that. So he immediately provided him a fellowship.
We have studies on Iruvilpettu village. Then Palanpur revisited by Bliss and Stern.
Yes, Palanpur is a classic case study.
Classic work.
Yes. So like that, we can also generate villages in Kerala by, say, particular focus by a college can select a village. If there are 10 neighborhood villages, every year we can take another village, so that that survey happens by the students. And that needs to be, there needs to be a depository where this database is being kept, so that we can revisit that village and see whatever changes has happened. No? So I hope that will be an interesting case.
Yeah. Any other clarification? Otherwise, we will wind up.
Good evening, sir. I am Hussain from EMEA College of Arts and Science, Kontoti. I have accessed the ASI data and ESTAT data. The thing is, the extraction of data, that is a tedious or complicated process. How can we extract the industrial data that is needed for a study? Is it possible to say the extraction procedure of databases?
That I mentioned in between towards the end of the lecture. I'm sure that KEA will take this as an initiative to have some sessions on this extraction of databases. Because that I am not sure whether in an online session in 5 minutes I can explain how to extract. That is why I didn't attempt that. Otherwise, NSSO and PLFS data or some IHDS or other database I should have tried. But I restricted myself seeing the difficulties on doing it online. No? So I am sure that very soon there will be some workshops that will examine this issue, how best we can make use of. And I think this needs to be done even by the research institutes like CDS or GIFT also, so that more and more students will be familiar with whatever is available in the public domain. No? So Hussain, you may have to wait for some time. We will definitely help you out.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Harikumar sir, there are many questions in the chat box.
Many of them have already left. So I think
8:50, I think we can think of maybe taking the last question or finding.
Yeah, that will be fine.
So some Shinu Varki has asked a question.
Jinu, yeah.
Shinu Varki.
Shinu,
are you there?
Shinu from SB College. Yes.
SB College.
SB College is Phillips Sir's college.
Yeah.
Right.
Hari, the current head of the department is Dr. Shinu Varki. Shinu, are you there? He has posted a question in the chat box. Is there any handbook available to refer to while handling the unit level records provided by All India Debt and Investment Survey of the NSS?
Because NSS normally don't provide any handbook on because their sources and methods, all the details are there. In that link, if you go to that where you download that microdata, and you go to that microdata link, there all the methods are given. But how to extract that data, it is a statistical technique. It has nothing to do with the NSSO, because they had given the layout of that questionnaire. They are given how the data is stored. Nowadays, it is relatively easy. It is not that complicated like the old period. But this data, any NSSO survey for that matter, time use survey, that is the latest one, is a time use survey. All these databases can be extracted. Given you have a interest, as I told, you have to love the data. Then it becomes easy to handle that data. So there is no, otherwise we may have to write some handbooks jointly with some other experts, how to extract the data. So that is, sometimes we used to feel it as I think Zakaria should have been a better resource person for that. I heard he left GIFT, Zakaria Siddiqui. No?
He left it to Jamia.
Okay. Because he has been doing it for a very long time.
Yeah.
In the sense that when he was a student in CDS only, I know. So that time onwards, he is good in extracting these NSSO databases. So such experts, if you can get, I think in 2-3 days, you can at least give the basics to the participants so that they will be able to make use of that. So once it is a chain reaction, once the college teachers are aware, then the students will automatically start using it. So we have to empower the teachers first.
We will discuss with the GIFT and try to arrange a workshop there.
Yes, sir. Yes.
That will be fine. Okay. Any more? So otherwise, we will have the vote of thanks.
Now, I would like to thank especially Manuel and Prasad, because they have made my day, because it has been very this thing to have two of them as the one introducing and one concluding the session. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Santosh, who will be proposing the vote of thanks?
Shaila is there.
Sir, I am here, sir.
Yeah. Come.
Is it audible, sir?
Yeah, perfectly audible.
Yeah, okay, sir. So, good evening, all. Respected Chair, Professor Harikumar, sir, and our resource person, Dr. K.S. Hari, sir, Professor, Gulati Institute of Politics and Economics, eminent academicians, K.J. Joseph, sir, Emmanuel, sir, Philip, sir, Santosh, sir, and Prasad sir, Needu teacher, faculty members, students, and dear scholars. We are moving to the end of the session. Actually, the session is very useful for the research students, those who are using the secondary data for framing their research work. Hari sir, in his talk, he mentioned about the different concepts of secondary data, the various dimensions, the database, its use, different methods, techniques of conversion. Actually, it gives a new insight for us, sir. Really a good intellectual discourse and takes long time for discussion also. There are different queries are here. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. From the bottom of my heart and on behalf of KEA, I express my sincere gratitude to you, sir. Thank you. Respected Hari Kumar, sir, thank you so much for arranging such a wonderful session. And KJ Joseph, sir, and the KEA office bearers, Emmanuel, Philip, sir, Sandosh, sir, the Prasad, sir, the faculty members, the students, and the research scholars. I express on behalf of KEA sincere thanks and gratitude to all of us. Thank you once again. And the session becomes a wonderful one and really an very useful intellectual discourse. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hari.
Yes, thank you.